I speak plain so you can hear me. Lift me up and you will know I do not move on my own breath. The words I say are not my own. My father taught me how to pray, how to answer when I'm asked, and the one who sent me walks with me. I am never left alone. Lift me up.
God's beautiful souls.
You will see.
Good morning.
I am.
Good evening.
I am what I say.
How's life treating you?
I
mean, seriously. How you doing? Are you still setting goals and checking them off? Even if you're moving slower than you planned? Do you still have a vision for your life? And are you taking those small, necessary steps to turn that vision into reality? And more importantly, are you taking care of you? Because life is going to throw some curveballs. Some days you're going to feel ready. And other days you're going to wonder, God, how am I supposed to handle all of this? But that's why we have to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You can't always control what life throws at you, but you can prepare yourself for how you're going to respond. And I'm asking these questions because I believe you can handle more than you think you can. You've already survived things that you thought would break you. You made it through days you didn't think you'd make it through, and you're still here. So don't give up on yourself now. You might not have everything figured out. You might not be where you thought you'd be by this point in your life, but that's okay. I want you to keep moving, keep praying, keep growing, and keep believing. I believe in you, but at some point, you have to believe in you too. Because sometimes the biggest thing standing between you and the life that you're praying for isn't the obstacle in front of you. It's that doubt inside of you. So take a deep breath. Lift your head up. Trust God and take the next step. You don't have to figure out your whole life today. Just don't stop becoming the person you were created to be. Welcome back to Lies Changes Truth. I'm your host, BK Bless. Listen, if this episode touches your spirit and blesses your soul, please like, share, and subscribe and follow me on my socials. The more people we get these messages out to, the more people we can heal. Now I want y'all to picture this. Somebody just got cut off in traffic. Their phone's dead. Coffee spilled on their last clean shirt. And they look up at the sky like the sky owes them an explanation. And they say it. The 7 words that's been the theme song to some people's whole life. Life is always unfair to me. I feel like somebody just got an attitude already. I can feel it through the speaker. You're already thinking, BK, you don't know what happened to me. And you're right. But I do know what happened to me. And I'm about to tell y'all some of it today, not the sanitized version and not the testimony service version, because I can't ask you to get honest with your pain if I'm not willing to bleed a little on the mic first. I just want y'all to bear with me for the next 20-something minutes, because today we're not just talking about that sentence. We're performing surgery on it. And I'm not doing this from a distance. I'm not coming from some mountain of I got it all figured out. I'm coming from the valley with you. So sit down, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, because this one, it might hurt a little before it heals. Now, I already mentioned the lie in today's intro. The lie's been whispered in every language on every continent since the beginning of time itself. The lie. Life is always unfair to me. Now, before anybody hits pause and says, BK lost his mind, he's about to invalidate my pain. Hold on. Stay with me, because I need to say this clearly, right up front, before we go any further. There are people who have had absolutely horrific things happen to them. Abuse, abandonment, tragedy that makes no sense. Things that were never, ever their fault and should have never happened to them, period. I repeat, I am not about to sit here and tell somebody to just get over it or it wasn't that bad. That's not this episode, and that's not who I am, and that's not who God is either. But here's what I've noticed, and maybe some of you noticed too. A lot of times when I hear somebody say, life is always unfair to me, it's not actually about the tragedy. It's about the moment right after. The moment where responsibility shows up and knocks on the door. Instead of answering it, we hide behind, well, life's just not fair to me. Like that's a permanent exemption from ever having to own our part in anything ever again. That's the lie we're digging up today. I don't do drive-by preaching because I'm not a preacher. I don't talk about anything I haven't lived. So let me give you my receipts first. I was molested as a child. Now I say that plainly these days because I refuse to whisper what the enemy wanted me to be ashamed of. My father, he disappeared when I was young. Not distant, not busy, disappeared. I got bullied all the way up until middle school. So when people want to have a conversation with me about life being unfair, understand, I didn't read about unfair in a book. I lived in its house for years. I could have built my whole identity on that. I could have walked around for the rest of my life saying, the world owes me. It owes me love. It owes me an apology. It owes me my childhood back, the one that I never got. And honestly, some days that old feeling, it still whispers to me. It's not gone. But here's the question I had to ask myself, and it's the same question that I'm handing to you today. If the world does owe me, what does cashing that check actually cost me? Because here's what I've learned. Living like the world owes me didn't get me one single thing back. Not one apology, not one lost year of childhood, not one bit of restored innocence. All it did was keep me in debt to bitterness while collecting nothing. Now let me tell you a story that has nothing to do with trauma and everything to do with responsibility. Because I want you to see how this plays out in real, everyday, unglamorous life. Years back, I put a group of people that I called my friends on my cell phone plan. My name, my credit, my signature on the dotted line. 3 of them just stopped paying their part. Just stopped. Left me holding the bag. Now here's the moment of truth. I could have said, you know what? That's on them. It's their responsibility, not mine. I'm not paying for what they didn't pay. And guess what? I would have been right. It was their responsibility. It was unfair that I was left holding the bag for grown people who made a commitment and broke it. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about being right. Being right about who's at fault doesn't erase whose name is on the account. If I didn't pay, my credit took the hit, not theirs. My score, my future apartment applications, my future car loans, my future. Their irresponsibility would have become my consequence if I chose to sit in "it's not fair" instead of standing up and handling it. That's the trap right there. It's not fair is true, and I still have to handle it is also true. Both things can be true at the same time. The lie, it isn't in acknowledging the unfairness. The lie is stopping there and using it as a permanent parking spot instead of a temporary rest stop. There's something I need you to get in your spirit today. Life is not fair for anybody. Not the person with the big house, not the person with the perfect family on Instagram, not the pastor, not the celebrity, not your enemy, and not that person that you're jealous of either. So some people are dealt a harder hand than others. That's real, and I'm not pretending it isn't. But every single human being who has drawn breath has had something happen to them that they didn't deserve, did not ask for, and could not control. The Bible doesn't hide from this. It doesn't pretend life is supposed to be fair. Job, a man the Bible calls blameless, said it plain in Job 5:7. But people are born for trouble as readily as sparks fly up from a fire. Not some people, not unlucky people. That's the human condition. Not a personal curse assigned to you specifically. And Jesus himself confirmed it in Matthew 5:45 when he said, he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. Read that again. Rain falls on good people and bad people. The sun shines on people who deserve it and people who don't. Unfairness, by that definition, isn't a personal attack from the universe against you. It's just the nature of a broken world that hasn't been made new yet. It's not that you were singled out. It's that you're human in a fallen world, same as everybody else walking this earth. Now look, I know somebody right now is thinking, okay, BK, but you don't understand my unfair. And you're right, I don't know your specific unfair. But I promise you this, if you got in a room with 10 strangers and everybody was honest, 10 different unfair stories would come out. Somebody's dad left. Somebody's spouse cheated. Somebody got the diagnosis nobody saw coming. Somebody got passed over for the promotion that they earned twice. And nobody in that room is walking around with a clean scoreboard from life. Nobody. So if unfair is universal, maybe the real question isn't, why me? Maybe the real question is, now what? I want to pause just for a second because somebody listening needs a word, not a lecture. And I want to speak this over you. If you've been sitting in, it's not fair for years, using it as the reason you didn't apply for the job or didn't go back to school or didn't forgive, didn't build, or didn't try again, I speak an interruption over that cycle right now in Jesus' name. You're not disqualified because of what was done to you. You're not disqualified because of what was done by you either. The God we serve doesn't have a too far gone list. The very things that were meant to bury you are about to become the soil you grow out of. Look at Genesis 50:20. Joseph, sold by his own brothers, forgotten in prison for years, and he didn't deserve to be there. But Joseph, he looked at his betrayers dead in the eye and said, but as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. That's not toxic positivity. That's not everything happens for a reason said by someone who's never suffered. That's a man who was actually trafficked by his own family, actually falsely accused, actually forgotten in prison, and still, at the end of it, could point to his pain and say, God repurposed that. If God did it for Joseph, he is not too tired, too busy, or too far away to do it for you. What was meant to break you is being repositioned right now to build you. I need you to receive that in your spirit. All right. Let's imagine life was fair. Perfectly, mathematically fair. Where you got exactly what you deserved. No more, no less. Listen, if life was truly fair, I got to be honest with y'all. Some of us wouldn't want that deal either. If I got exactly what I deserved for every bad decision, every prideful moment, every time I was selfish or short with somebody who didn't deserve it, I don't want fair. I want grace. And grace, by definition, is unfair. Grace is getting good you didn't earn. Mercy is receiving what you did not earn and being spared from what you did deserve. Neither one of those is fair. And thank God for it. Romans 5:8 says, "But God demonstrates his own love toward us, and that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." That's not fair. That's not balance. That's not you get what you deserve. That's love overriding the scoreboard entirely. So here's the plot twist. The same unfairness we're mad about when it costs us is the exact same principle that saves us when it's flipped in our favor. You can't demand fair from the world and simultaneously thank God. Isaiah 53:5 says, "But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him. And by his stripes, we are healed." Jesus didn't deserve the cross, but God used the cross to save the world. He didn't deserve the pain, but God gave the pain a purpose. And maybe that's something we need to remember when life doesn't seem fair. Unfair doesn't always mean abandon. Sometimes it means God is working on something you can't see yet. What hurts you might become part of what heals you. What broke you might become a part of your testimony. And what you thought was the end, it might be the very place where God begins something new. And I'm not the only one who's landed here. Let me put some other voices in the room with us for a second. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the Holocaust, who watched horror most of us can't even imagine, came out of the other side saying that even when we can't change our circumstances, we're still faced with the challenge of changing ourselves in response to them. Maya Angelou put it this way: you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. And Nelson Mandela, a man who lost 27 years of his life to prison unfairly for a cause that he believed in, said the greatest glory isn't in never failing. It's in rising every time you fall. You notice something about every single one of these people? None of them said it was fair. Frankl didn't say the camps were fair. Mandela didn't say prison was fair. Maya Angelou didn't say her childhood trauma was fair. They all agreed it wasn't fair. And they all still found a way to rise, to build, to forgive, and to lead. Unfair and unstoppable are not opposites. You can be both at the same time. Now I want to land this plane where it needs to land, on Jesus. Because that's who this whole podcast points back to, right? God's beautiful souls. Jesus didn't promise his people a fair world. He actually told us the opposite. Straight up, with no sugarcoating. John 16:33 says, "These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." Read that carefully. He didn't say in this world you might have tribulation if you're unlucky. He said you will have tribulation. Guaranteed, not maybe. That's Jesus being honest with us in a way a lot of preachers won't be honest with you. He told us up front, this world is not going to treat you fair. But he didn't stop there. He said, be of good cheer, which translated for the streets basically means cheer up and chin up and don't walk around defeated because I have overcome the world. past tense, already done. Not I will eventually overcome it, overcame, finished business. And Paul, a man who was shipwrecked, beaten, jailed unjustly, betrayed by people he trusted, and still wrote most of the New Testament, said this in 2 Corinthians 4:17. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long, yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. Small won't last. That's a man talking about being shipwrecked 3 times, y'all. That's not a man who never suffered. That's a man who suffered and still called it light and momentary compared to what's coming. That's not denial. That's perspective from somebody who already knows how the story ends. God's beautiful soul, this episode is getting closer to the end. So let's get practical. Because a revelation without application is just a nice feeling that wears off by Tuesday. So first, I want you to grieve it, but don't decorate your whole house with it. It's okay to grieve what happened to you. Grief is not weakness. Grief is honest. But grief is supposed to be a room you visit, not the address that you live at permanently. Second, separate what happened to me from what I do next. Those are 2 different categories. What happened to you might not be your fault at all. What you do next is 100% your assignment. Nobody's coming to do that part for you. Not because it's fair, but because it's yours. Third, stop waiting for an apology that funds your next move. A lot of us are frozen, waiting on somebody to say sorry, but before we allow ourselves to heal, build, forgive, or move forward. Some of those apologies are never coming. And here's the freedom in that. You were never actually waiting on their apology. You were waiting on your own permission. Give it to yourself today. And fourth, remember, unfair doesn't mean unloved. God allowing something doesn't mean God authored it or approves of it. He works with the mess. He didn't necessarily send the mess. James 1:2-4 says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." That's not be happy trouble came. That's let trouble build something in you that outlasts the trouble. Real quick before we close, I just thought of something that I thought was interesting and made me giggle a little bit. You ever notice that the same people who say life's not fair about their student loans are the same ones who never say life's not fair when they win a $50 scratch-off? No, nobody's calling their pastor like, "Pastor, this blessing is unjust. I didn't even work for the $50. This is unfair to the other people in line who didn't win." No, we only bring God or the universe or fate or whoever into the conversation when it's bad news. When it's good news, we just say, "I'm blessed," and keep it moving. So if we're going to be consistent, and let's be consistent, fair cuts both ways, or we don't get to use the word at all. I say this with love because I've done it too. I know sometimes the hardest truth isn't admitting that life is unfair. It's admitting that we still have responsibility in the middle of it. And that's why we got to bring it home the way we always do. The lie. Life is always unfair to me. Said as a permanent identity instead of an honest observation. Used as a shield that protects us from taking responsibility for the things we still have the power to change. The change. Life being unfair isn't targeting you personally. It's the shared condition of every human being on the planet Earth. The change is moving from why is this happening to me to what am I going to do with what I have left? Because life won't always give you the circumstances you wanted, but you can still choose what you do with them. Maybe the blessing isn't in getting everything back. Maybe it's discovering that what remains is enough to start again. The truth, life was never promised to be fair, but it was promised to be overcome. Jesus said it himself, in this world, you will have trouble, but be of good cheer. He already overcame the world. Your job was never to make life fair. Your job is to walk with the one who already won. That's a bar. Whatever unfair thing happened to you, if it was molestation, a missing parent, bullying, betrayal, or a bill someone else left you holding, I'm not telling you it was okay. It wasn't. But I am telling you, it doesn't get the final word over your life. God does. And he already told you how the story ends. You win. Through him, you overcome. This has been episode 68 of Lies Changes Truth. I'm your host, BK Bless. If you felt this in your spirit today, do me a favor. Send it to somebody who's been stuck and it's not fair for way too long. Sometimes the thing that breaks a cycle in somebody's life is just knowing that they're not the only one who's ever felt this way. And before we close this out, I need to ask you one question, and don't rush past it. What have you been letting life's not fair excuse you from? Every excuse you've built on life's not fair is a room you've locked yourself in, and you've had the key the whole time. So I'm not going to ask you if life was fair to you. It wasn't. It wasn't to any of us. I'm going to ask something heavier. What is unfair costing you right now, today, that you have the power to reclaim? Because Jesus didn't rise on a fair Friday. He rose after the most unfair day in history. And he's still asking broken people to walk out of tombs. So what's your tomb? And what's stopping you from walking out of it today? Until next time, I want you to realize life isn't fair for anyone. Keep living life and stay you.
Comes from the one above. I am guided in the quiet of his love. When you lift the Son of Man, you'll feel the source behind the voice. You'll know I do nothing by myself. I only follow the Father's choice. Lift me up, and you will see I am He. I am what I say. All I speak is from my Father. All I do is walk in His state. All I do is walk in His state. Lift me up, and you will know. Not by my will, but by His hand. I do the things that please Him. With the Father I will stand. Oh, 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 oh.